Hey everyone, what's up? I do want to kind of cover the fight last night. We'll go over the fight flow in the rounds real quick. The first three rounds, I think Spence, he really felt he was on cloud nine. He was back in the ring. He was out to prove himself, and he was very optimistic and things like that. So you saw, plus, he added some new wrinkles to his game that gave him a little false confidence, I would say, especially in hindsight when you view the ending. But he relied more on a back foot game. This is something that you never seen him really do ever in his career. You could maybe say the Danny Garcia fight was as close as you came to see that, and of course the Terrence Crawford fight, because he finally fought someone who knew that he could easily beat Spence. This game, I always tell people all the time, it's like 98% mental, more so than it is physical. Spence always tries to establish the bully role. He tries to affect people mentally and try to establish his dominance before stepping into the ring, before he did so with the opponents that he fought across his career. He always tried to get in their head, intimidate them. Crawford was a guy that was not intimidated. Didn't let that type of mind game affect him. Crawford knew from day one he was the boogeyman, and he knew that Spence wasn't the real boogeyman. But first three rounds, you saw the optimism of Errol Spence, and you saw it by the fourth round, especially when what's his name started going to the body. you know, it opened up top, and he was able to land more right hands. But the fourth round was the real, I would say, shifting of the fight, at least for Tsyzy, who was very stiff, who was very nervous. You know what I'm saying? He was letting Spence do what Spence normally does. We saw semblance of the old Errol Spence there in the first three rounds, but again, a couple body shots and then some right hands up top, and again, you kind of saw the fight shift. Now, there was some back and forth. Spence would try to answer back the next round or whatever else, and then round six came, same thing. Tsyzy would go to the body, and it opened up top, and then it eventually just got to the point where, Tsyzy finally started getting some confidence himself, realizing that he is actually the bigger, stronger guy. Um, there were a lot of questions before this fight, and I know a lot of you Spence fans, he's the reason why a lot of you joined boxing, why you started to participate in the sport and things like that. And I know it was I'm seeing a lot of guys are starting to, you're finally starting to be truthful about his fundamentals, his bad habits, things like that. Another thing, the reason why I didn't really talk about this fight before the lead up, you know what I'm saying? But I knew it was going to be kind of like a Ricky Hatton situation. Ricky Hatton, after he lost to Floyd and he dealt with his first loss, he tried to do something outside himself. He went to Floyd Sr. and, trying to be an old dog that learns new tricks, it's a very hard thing to pull off, especially when you're a guy who is not the most disciplined, like a Ricky Hatton, Errol Spence. For example, they would allow themselves to blow up in between fights. And you have other habits such as the alcoholism, things like that, substance abuse, okay? But we saw that Spence, again, he ended his career doing something that he normally does not do. He usually is the guy who likes to go in there, throw volume, you understand, smother his opponents. That's not how his career ended. He ended his career off a back foot, you understand? And Spence himself had many questions going into this ring, and a lot of those questions were answered by the end of the fight. Although Tsyzy many times was smothering his own work and he wasn't creating enough space to even take, seize more opportunities that were there right there in front of his face the whole night. He still got the job done. He was a younger guy. He was not a shop worn, although we've seen him lose some fights and taking some beatings himself, although he's younger than Spence. But, it's just crazy to see Spence really go out like that. And again, it's kind of the Ricky Hatton situation. You're typically going to revert back to what it is that you know and what got you there. And I do want to end the video here, though. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing controversial about the fight. There was no politics involved or any of that. Some of you may disagree with the scorecards. I don't know. Yeah, the scorecards were fine. Tim won the fight. It's just that simple. But Spence, he's coming off a defeat. He needs to settle down before he makes any brash decisions, and he needs to consider his future as well. And we have another guy who's been through this process recently within the past year or so, and that is Keith Thurman. Kell Brook and Amir Khan, for whatever reason, it's because Amir Khan knew he was going to lose to Kell Brook. That's why he avoided him so long over his career. Uh, but Spence, you know, you got a training camp underneath your belt, and you got some ring rust knocked off. And although you did lose, and you did lose unanimous decision, I don't think he should be too hasty in his decision to retire and then go back to his ranch or whatever it is that he wants to do. Keith Thurman and Errol Spence, they still have an opportunity to make a very good payday that they can both capitalize on and for more security for themselves in the future, and that is if they fight each other. Keith Thurman, I do have him winning the fight. Keith Thurman, even at this point, still is the sharper puncher, does have more power, is a more clean puncher. He doesn't throw his way many punches, although he himself back in the day was a volume puncher like Spence as well. I do have Keith Thurman winning the fight. It's probably going to be very similar to what we saw last night, unanimous decision. Or he may possibly even knock Spence down and secure a knockout in this fight. But Spence does have the advantage right now because, again, you've gone through your fat camp, which is essentially all you did. You understand. You did fight last minute 160, which is how he started his career. Many people don't know this. He didn't start at welterweight. None of those guys did. They all moved down to welterweight because they weren't big enough to really be effective at those weight classes. You'll see that Spence had many weird, odd fight weights early on in his career, fighting, I believe, at 164 even at one point. I'll have to go back and you guys can correct me in the comments section, but this is a great opportunity for both guys. You've already gone through your fat camp, like I said. Keith Thurman, I'm sure he's back out of shape, smoking his weed and playing his flute, you know what I'm saying? This is a great opportunity for both guys to, once again, there's still decent money to be made if those two get together and fight. You know what I'm saying? You can have a cheap undercard. You can even throw a guy like Adrian Broner, who's kind of making a comeback as well on the undercard, although I'm sure Broner will want to be a main event. But, there's still a decent cash grab here. You still have a group of loyal ex-PBC fans here. They're going to want some nostalgia and things like that. And it's a decent payday for both of them for their, to help seize financial security in the future because, they're both fighters. I doubt that they're really making the moves that they're claiming that they're making. You know what I'm saying? It'll just be some extra cash for your security if they do consider it, and that's both guys, And again, it's going to be a decent payday. Networks will still be interested. DAZN will be interested in it. Boxing is still dwindling, and there's not much going on in the sport. It'll be a good little opportunity, just like Kell Brook and Amir Khan finally did when they met each other. It'll be a good opportunity for both to, again, just make another secure, decent paycheck before they do call it quits. I think Spence needs to seize the momentum now. Let Keith Thurman go through his fat camp. You're already a few steps ahead of Keith Thurman, and you did work on some new things. Now this is an opportunity for you to have those new things more ingrained into your head. You understand? It's really not the time right now to be down, and make such a solidified decision at this point. I think he really needs to take advantage of this and fight Keith Thurman. That's just my 2 cents. And your best opportunity is now. You wait later, Keith's going to have the advantage even more against you. Because skill-wise, boxing IQ-wise, Keith is the better fighter. You understand? Errol Spence, I know he doesn't want to hear Keith run his mouth, and it's going to be annoying and things like that, but he should definitely consider this move and take your little month or so off, but get right back in the gym. Just go through the motions, make sure that you're still running, things like that. You know, don't go into retirement mode yet. You know, I think this is a good opportunity. Although you're coming off a loss, he's coming off a loss as well. Seize the momentum that you got and the advantage that you have. You're a few steps ahead of him right now. Again, you've already gone through your fat camp. You know, now you're going to have an opportunity to ingrain again what it is that what's new that you did pick up. You know, this is what Terrence Crawford did. Nobody knew he was training for Canelo for like around 6 months before the fight even occurred. They had Canelo in their sights the whole time. You understand, that was the fight that made the most sense to a Terrence Crawford. And a lot of people, they just assumed that Canelo was going to win. We covered that fight on this channel. But preparation is the key. It's just like Batman. Batman wins off of preparation. And Spence, he's been doing it the Keith Thurman way. Let's take long layoffs, you understand, and then try to come up and act like we're big and bold when we say no tune-ups. Keith Thurman tried that also against an old Manny Pacquiao, and he got beat. You understand? He got knocked down in the first round, you know. But again, this is a grand opportunity, again, to seize another decent paycheck and to make sure that your future is more solidified, you know, and it's a little bit extra, more cash at the end of the day. It's going to be a decent payday. They pay these fighters a lot today. You know, these guys aren't even worth the paychecks that they're getting. They're easily going to secure a better paycheck than they've secured in the past. Like example, the 2.5 guarantee purse that he made versus a Sean Porter. You're going to get more than that. You're going to get around at least 3 to 5 million in today's boxing economy. So they need to consider this, both guys, and Spence or whoever else. They need to put away their pride. And I'm trying to tell you, it's a nice little decent payday if both guys really think about their futures. And, you know, you never know what's going to occur, what's going to be on the horizon. And for Spence, I think this is a good opportunity, although it may not seem it because he's coming off a loss. He's already said what he said, but, you know, come off the momentum. You got some momentum built up, and you can definitely utilize that momentum on your behalf, not only for yourself, but for your kids and your family life and all that stuff, all right? I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.